Imagine waking up one morning in California, your home filled with sunlight, your family sipping tea, and suddenly, you're told to pack everything you can carry. By nightfall, you may never see that home again. This was the reality for over 120,000 Japanese Americans during World War II. Many were born in the United States, citizens, neighbors, friends. But after Pearl Harbor, everything changed. Whispers of spies, saboteurs, and enemy aliens spread like wildfire. Fear hovered everywhere. Executive Order 9066 was signed by President Roosevelt in February 1942. Just one paragraph long, but with devastating impact. Entire families, grandparents, parents, children, were forced from their homes. They had about a week, sometimes only days, to sell businesses, close up farms, leave pets behind. Most lost everything in a single blow. They arrived at assembly centers, often fairgrounds and racetracks. Imagine sleeping in horse stalls, muddy and cold, behind barbed wire. Guards with machine guns watched families as if they were criminals. From there, Japanese Americans were shipped by train, always under military escort, to 10 camps scattered across some of the loneliest corners of the United States. Names you might never have heard: Manzanar, Heart Mountain, Tule Lake. Officially, these were called relocation centers, but the fences, towers, and searchlights told another story. Internees built their own barracks. Sandstorms blew dust through flimsy walls. Summers scorched, winters froze. Life reduced to bare essentials: cots, army blankets, and a single suitcase of possessions. They tried to maintain dignity, created gardens in the desert, published newspapers, taught school. Children recited the Pledge of Allegiance, sometimes while staring at the American flag through barbed wire. Some young men volunteered to fight for the country that detained their families. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team, made up mostly of Japanese American soldiers from the camps, became the most decorated unit for its size in U.S. military history. Their motto: "Go for broke." But back home, there was suspicion, vandalism, and even violence against Japanese Americans. Their homes were ransacked, businesses sold to opportunists for pennies. Most would never recover the life they once had. Inside the camps, loyalty questionnaires asked, would you serve in the armed forces? Would you swear unqualified allegiance to America, forswearing loyalty to the Emperor of Japan? These questions split families, friends, even entire communities. Some men who answered no were sent to even harsher camps as disloyals. Others joined the draft and fought bravely on the front lines. After the war, the government quietly closed the camps. People returned to find strangers in their homes, years of their lives lost forever. No one offered help. Wartime fears may have faded, but wounds lingered, both visible and invisible. Generations felt the sting of injustice. Decades later, America began to face this dark chapter. Survivors fought for an official apology. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, admitting a grave injustice. Survivors received a letter of apology and $20,000, but no amount could restore the years or erase the pain. Photographs from the camps still haunt us. Children behind fences, elders stoic in their Sunday best. American flags waving behind barbed wire. Their faces ask, could this happen again? The story of Japanese American internment reminds us, fear can turn neighbors into outcasts with just a signature. Even in America. Especially in America. Next time you hear someone talk about freedom and democracy, remember those who recited the Pledge of Allegiance from inside a prison camp. History is not just about what happened. It's about recognizing, questioning, and challenging it, so we don't repeat the same dark chapters. Because behind every faded photograph is a family, a dream deferred, and a story America must never forget. What would you do if it happened to you? Let's keep asking, let's keep remembering.